Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we're looking at the front seats for the Austin Healey range. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the Big Heeleys, as they're commonly known in the industry, which effectively includes the 104 models, the 106 models and the 3000 models. Now, within those kind of abbreviation groups, as it were, for the Heeleys, included the BN1, BN2, BN4, BN6, BN7, BT7, BJ7 and BJ8. So quite a few models included in there, but effectively between that era of production run, they produced three different versions of seats, and that's what these three are here. As a very brief overview, this one on the left here is the early Heeleys, so that's the 104s and some of the very early 106s. In the middle here you had the 106s and pretty much all of the 3000 models, and on the end here you had the BJ8, which was the very last 3000 that they made, a 3000 Mark III convertible effectively. So the BJ8 is rather unique, it's its own version of seats, and then these two kind of covered all the other models there. And what we've got here is effectively the three trimmed up sets. These are used as our display seats within the factory, and we also take them to shows with us. Obviously trimmed in a variety of different materials and colours to kind of showcase different finishes that we can provide for you. And they've all been made using aftermarket frameworks, foams, tacking strips, and of course seat covers. Now obviously do refer to our other videos, various videos on our YouTube channel, which detail not just the trimmed up versions of seats, but also all the elements of the seats that we can provide. So seat covers, seat foams, seat frames effectively. And of course, we can provide them all fully trimmed up, whether that's using our aftermarket frames or if you want to ship us your original seat frames, assuming they're in good enough condition to reuse, then we can do that as well. So obviously check out the other videos. There will be links to specific other videos at the end of this video. But of course, we've got our whole YouTube channel. It's really worth browsing through that. I'm adding videos by the week these days. So always good to keep up. And obviously remember to like and subscribe, please. But yeah, I just want to do a very brief overview of all of these seats. I'm not going to go into too much detail because of course I have done more in-depth videos showing not just trim seats but also all the elements of the seat covers and seat hardware that we can offer and do offer on a regular basis. Just to cross-check, so we'll start off with this suede green seat. So like I say, this is the very early Heeley seat. So this is effectively the 104 and some of the very early 106s. In in the kind of model language, that would be the BN1 models, the BN2 models, and then some of the early BN4 models. Typically, it went up to when they switched factory between Longbridge and Abingdon, but chassis number wise, it's meant to be up until around 68,959. However, don't take that as gospel. We know for a fact that there was changes before and after that chassis number change. In theory, that's what they documented it down as the main overhaul of interior trim. But we always recommend basically send us photos either of your original seat covers or of your actual seat frames themselves, and we'll tell you which ones they are. But that was meant to be the crossover. We've also seen these fitted to some 106s as well. So there's no rule of thumb consistency on that there, so always use the chassis number as a rough guideline. Then they switched to this version here, which was effectively the later BN4s past that chassis number. The most of the BN6s, BN7s, BT7s and BJ7s, and then finally that was the BJ8 model there. But let's start off with this one here. So this one here, like I say, is BN1 BN2, and then some of the 104s and potentially some 106s as well. To show you in the book, it's this version here. And the key identifier, I would say, in terms of the actual seat covers themselves, the seat frames did vary, especially the base frames. You can tell the difference in the thickness depth of these compared to these, and then that's wood under there, whereas that's metal, etc. But the main differentiating item is all related to the mechanism element here and here. So on the earlier cars, this backrest back went all the way round and had the mechanism there, and it kind of had a glove sewn onto the front of it, whereas this one here, the backrest back ended there and it had a separate glove that slid on, and that was continued on into the BJ8 range there. Let me just show you around the back a bit easier. So yeah, you can see this seam here, which is a tuck around. So that's backrest bit there is literally cut down to there, and then you had a separate glove that went on, whereas this one here it wrapped all the way around in one piece there. Then this early one here had a very distinctive design as well, because it had the hidem tacking material that went around the back base area there, and there's actually, you can just about make out the outline of it there, but they had two wooden kind of, we refer to them as hockey stick tacking strips that went around the back of the framework there that you tacked onto, hence the hidem hiding the piping underneath there. Whereas these ones here, it was all flat because it was actually tacked on the inside of the backrest. The backrest went sort of up and round. So that's the kind of main key design. You can see it wraps all the way around, as opposed to having the seam here. And just to reference that in this book here, you can see there the piping's coming all the way down there. That's the hidem banding, and there's no seam there. Whereas these ones here, you can just about make out the seam there, which is effectively just there behind the seat belt there, but you can just make out the seam there. So that's the effective main difference there. And then these are the BJ8 ones there. So that's that version there. Now, and like I've said, I'm not going to go into too much detail on these elements of things here, but do want to give a basic overview, because all of these backrest squabs, as they're known, are very, very tight fitting covers. They're notoriously tight fitting. We have kept true to the original design, so they are pretty tough to fit, but they look absolutely superb when they're done properly. You can see there's no bagginess. The piping is right on the circumference of the frame. There's literally no bagginess at all in that horseshoe there. Also, the depth of the horseshoe is the correct depth on all of them. Do check out a video I've linked at the end of this one, because I go into great detail showing an original seat and one of our aftermarket seat covers, showing pretty much to the millimetre the exact depth it's meant to be. Other suppliers out there have altered their seat covers. They've made them effectively a bit easier to fit, but you're only basically making the first job easier. To get them to actually look nice is almost impossible on theirs, because there's just so much bagginess around this horseshoe, and the horseshoe is not the correct depth, and it's visibly not the correct depth. They've made it easily an inch or more out, and therefore it doesn't look right when it's all said and done in the car. So do bear that in mind. We're meticulous to these details. We can obviously help and guide people on the best way of fitting these, but we do like to warn people that the backrest squabs especially are very tight fitting, but they're meant to be tight fitting. There is a way of trimming them, but I'm not going to say it's easy. It is tough work. Even professional trimmers struggle to get them done, especially on these earlier seats, because you've got this element here where you're battling to get this material all round in one piece. Whereas this one here is a bit easier because it's effectively a separate glove that the backrest comes down to. So do bear that in mind. And of course, this is why we actively encourage people to just let us do the hard work for you. Then you end up with beautifully trimmed seats like these in the car. So do bear that in mind. But like I say, if you're going to be doing it yourself, or you're getting a professional trimmer and they are struggling, do get them to get in contact with us. I'm more than happy to give them help and advice. They do fit. Do not let them alter the seat covers. We've had some absolute horror stories over the years where a trimmer thought he knew best, thought that we had made them wrong, and went and edited them, and they looked terrible and didn't fit properly in the end anyway, and we had to remake the seats for the guy. But we ended up trimming those for him to make sure the job was done properly. So do bear that in mind. I don't want to make anyone too nervous about it, but it is worth being extremely cautious about it. But as you can see, absolutely lovely, trimmed, barely any wrinkles in them whatsoever, which is how they should be. In terms of the spec of these, so this early one here has been done in suede green. It's been done in a Leatherfaced spec, which is the factory specification, i.e. what the majority of the seats for the early Healeys left with. We refer to it as leather-faced, meaning the facings of the seat are made in leather. So basically that principle means that the bits that touch your body as you sit in the seat, so this horseshoe here, the pleated panels on the horseshoe, and actually this part here on the cars as well is also leather, but effectively the bits that touch your body are leather, whereas the kind of backs and the very bottom surrounds are vinyl, as are the retainers. And that was factory spec for the majority of the cars. Now, this is where it can get a bit confusing. We can offer a 3-tier option on materials. One end of the scale, you've got everything in vinyl. So pretty straightforward. Literally all of it would be supplied in vinyl. Other end of the scale, you've got everything in leather. Again, pretty straightforward. Everything's in leather, no vinyl. Then you've got the middle ground option, which is what I've just described, the leather-faced version. And that was original for most Healeys when leaving the factory. Certainly the earlier Healeys. We call it Leatherfaced. Other companies out there refer to it as leather, which should not be confused with our full leather offerings, which is an upgrade kit. A lot of people get confused, especially when they look at pricing and they see our full leather kit and then they see other suppliers that leather kit and they assume they're meant to be the same kit, but there's a significant price difference. That is the reason. They call theirs leather, we call ours leather-faced. Can be a bit confusing, a bit misleading if you ask me, but be aware of that major difference. Of course, I would encourage you to very much look past price as a metric for choosing your interior trim supply. You really need to be looking at quality of raw materials, quality of the workmanship and the products, reputation within the industry, awards, things like that. We are known globally within the industry as being the most premium supplier of Healey interior trim. All we do is interior trim. We don't get involved in bodyworks, gearboxes, engines, steering wheels, none of that stuff. We only deal with interior trim and upholstery and then soft top items as well. It's all we focus on. And of course we do the Austin Healey range. We do three other marks of car, 4 in total. We do Austin Healey, TR, MGA and Jaguar. That's all we do. We do total of about 50 cars, but day in, day out, we're doing the same cars, maybe 10 of the same cars over and over again, day in, day out. And that includes the Healey range. So really, we're just doing the same ones each day, every day. So we like to consider ourselves somewhat the experts, and that's what we're known as in the industry. To that point, we work and we supply kits to some of the leading restorers of Healeys in the world, most namely JME Healey, Murray Scott Nelson, Rules Motorsports. We've also supplied interior kits for several of the actual judges of concourse events over in the USA. So not necessarily cars that have been entered into concourse events, which of course we do get involved in as well. But I'm actually talking about we have supplied interior trim for the judges of those concourse competitions. And as well as that, several of the presidents of the various Austin Healey clubs globally. And I think that speaks volumes for our quality workmanship and reputation, because they have chosen out of their wealth of knowledge and bank of information of suppliers, they've chosen us for their interior trim. So that really does speak volumes. So like I say, really look past the price of metric, the metric of price when choosing your interior trim supplier. Anyway, I massively digress there. So 3-tier option on the seat covers. Vinyl at one end, full leather at the other end, and then the middle ground option, which we call leather-faced. Other companies refer to as leather, which generally speaking was the original option from the factory. And just to go over that, so leather-faced, this horseshoe here is leather, pleated panels leather, these inner parts are leather, these pleated panels leather, that horseshoe's leather, that actual surround there is leather as well. But then on the very bottom, this part here is vinyl, and then the back of the seat here is also vinyl, and then the retainer down there that you can't really see is also vinyl. So that's the kind of OEM original factory spec for that particular version there. Moving on to the slightly later Healey, which covered the most 106s and most 2000s. Very, very similar setup there. The covers, really the main difference is, like I say, the way this wraps round and you had separate gloves there. The same setup completely as that one in terms of the materials available. So 3-tier option, and basically the same setup in terms of where the leather was. So it's horseshoe, pleated panel, horseshoe. The inside of the gloves there were leather, and then the surround here is leather, and then vinyl for this surround. The outside glove there is vinyl. That's vinyl, and then the back around here is also vinyl there, so just bear that in mind. The hardware underneath was different. Ultimately, they kind of look the same, but they did have different hardware underneath, and of course, do check out my other videos detailing that. Then finally, BJ8. BJ8's own different version. It shared some of the actual frame hardware as the middle version car there, but the seat covers are completely different. The actual foams are different as well, actually subtly different. And they're rather unique, the BJ8s. So this version here has been done in vinyl Ambla, which was OEM factory spec for a lot of the BJ8 cars. Some of them did leave the Leatherfaced spec. Very few would have left with full leather. It would have been special orders for arguably sort of foreign-based diplomats or something like that. Majority of them did leave with vinyl Ambla. But with that, they had a very unique kind of pattern to them. So, for example, the pleats had this embossed square pattern on them, on the pleated panels, on both the cushions and the backrest, but only for vinyl Ambla versions of the seats. And then they also had this rather unique piping, goes around the outside. We call it chrome piping. Other companies call it, I think, a herringbone piping. It's effectively a clear plastic piping, and in the middle of it, it's got a kind of string element to it. It's black and silver string. If I just reference it in this book, because over the course of time, it turns yellowy gold, as you can see here. And in fact, they reference it here. The piping on this car has yellowed with age. So we get quite a few customers asking us if we can supply the original gold piping. And obviously I have to explain to them it didn't start off gold, it started off effectively silver, but it goes gold over the course of time. So do bear that in mind. Now, it's worth noting, I think we're one of the only companies in the world that can do that embossed pattern, but we are the only company in the world that stocks the piping. So yeah, it again shows you the dedication that we've gone to in making sure that we can supply as original specification for these cars. But like I say, that both the weld pattern on the vinyl and also the chrome piping on the outside element, that was only applicable to the vinyl Ambla versions of the seats. For any cars that left with the leather-faced versions of the seats, which was a decent amount, so definitely that was the majority, the vinyl Ambla, but certainly the Leatherface, there were a decent number that left the factory like that. When they left in the Leatherface spec, pleats would be plain and the piping around the outside would be the same colour as the main trim. So in this example, it's blue. It would have blue piping everywhere. So it's only for the vinyl Ambla that they use these rather unique details there. So do bear that in mind. I think that's kind of covered it. Just go over the actual colours in these ones here. So this early one here is suede green, which is a kind of a lighter shade green. It is one of the original Healey colours, and we've gone for matching suede green piping. It's worth noting as well on our piping, we use Leathercloth for our piping, not vinyl. Leathercloth is one, original, but two, is much more suitable for piping because it's slightly thinner but very robust. It's got a very robust face to it. It's very similar material to vinyl, but it is slightly thinner. It's got a different backing to it, and it's more robust. And it's what originally they used for piping. It's sometimes referred to as vinide, sometimes Rexin, same material effectively. And we use that as standard for our piping, where colours allow. Not all colours, unfortunately, are available with the Leathercloth piping, but if they are, which is probably 80 or 90% of our colours, then we use it as standard. Other companies out there use vinyl for their piping, or a lot of them use vinyl for their piping, and that's for one of two reasons. More likely a cost-saving exercise, so they don't have to stock Leathercloth as an extra material, but two, almost certainly they are unaware or maybe don't care about the crucial elements of the principles of Leathercloth over vinyl that make Leathercloth more suitable for piping. It is worth checking out my other video that I'm going to be doing, detailing the differences between Leathercloth and vinyl when it comes to both piping on seats and edging of carpets, because it's one of those little details that we do and we know is correct and more suitable that a lot of other companies overlook. So it is worth checking that out. Also a blog post on that. So back to the piping. So suede green colour with suede green piping. This has been done to Leatherface specifications, and we've used smooth leather for the leather element of it. We can also supply grained leather, dependent on the colour. Most of our colours are available in smooth and grained. So that's that spec there. This version here has been done in parchment, also in smooth leather. And this has been piped with British Racing Green piping. Now, it's worth noting, Austin Healey, in terms of colours, had a colour they called grey. We refer to this as AH grey with a asterisk after it, because it's not really a grey at all. bit of a subject of debate of what the colour actually is, but it's anywhere between a kind of off-white cream to a doe skin kind of colour. We offer a few different shades, and there are almost certainly at least 2 or 3 different shades that Healey actually used under that guise of grey. So do talk to us about that. Obviously, if you've got original trim, then that's fantastic. You can cross-check it against that, but we will always send you samples to clarify which shade it is that you want. So bear that in mind. But either way, that's one of the colours that could be considered one of the original Healey greys. Generally speaking, I've seen more where they're a bit more sort of stony, light stone beige colour. But almost certainly some of the cars left with a shade similar to that. We've had a couple of customers send us original samples, or they're 99% sure they're original samples, and the colour semi-matched up to that. So a bit of a grey area, excuse the quite good pun on that one. Like I said, it is a grey area quite literally. So so that's been done in parchment smooth leather with British Racing Green piping. And then finally this one over here, the BJ81, has been done in AH blue, or Austin Healey blue. Now again, a bit of a subject to debate about original shade of blue. Sorry, it's been done in vinyl as well, that one, vinyl Ambla. Healey, again, they called a colour just blue. We know for sure they definitely use 2 different variants of blue. And we refer to those currently as dark blue, which is really dark. It's almost black if you haven't got good light. And then AH blue, which is still on the dark spectrum, but it's a lot bluer, as you can see here. And both of them are definitely definitely original for the Austin Healey range. We know that they use both of those shades. We've got original samples upstairs of both those colours. But the problem was they didn't update their records. They literally just called it blue throughout. They did it the same with red as well. And again, we've got at least 3 shades of red that we know to be original for the Healey range. So again, it's those little details that we're known for. We're very pedantic on these things. We always send material samples. We don't like to take half measures. We send samples out to make sure that you know what you're getting. Again, one of the reasons that we have the reputation we have within the industry. So just bear that in mind. I think that's it, isn't it? Covered pretty much everything there, but I do actively encourage you guys to check out the other videos on my YouTube channel. I know they can go on sometimes. I do all these videos off the top of my head. I try to keep them as concise as possible, but I like to give people as much information as possible. I like to be as transparent as possible. We know we make the best kits in the world. I'm trying to get that message across to you and trying to keep everyone informed so that they go into their restoration project with the most knowledge that they can know, and know that they are going to end up with the best and most superior product for their restoration. So that's why I do these things. So that's why I should encourage you to check out our other videos, and of course go on to our website to check out more information on our blog handbook area. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe and share with other classic car enthusiasts out there. Be sure to check out my other videos, including ones linked at the end of this video. And of course, be sure to check in next time. If you're restoring your Austin Healey or Big Healey, do of course get in contact with us via our website. I look forward to hearing from you, and thanks again for tuning in.